Hey, everybody, welcome to Downballot Roundup, where I introduce you to Democratic candidates running in local elections throughout the country. I'm Bryan Randolph, and I am here today with Janie Monier, who is running for Frederick County Board of Election in Frederick County, Maryland. Janie, it is so nice to meet you. Did I say Frederick County?
You said
Oh,
election instead of
yeah,
education.
Board of Education. I do it every time. Okay, I underlined it. I still didn't do it. All right,
It's
Board of
still okay.
Education in
There
Frederick
you
County,
go.
Maryland. Janie, it is so good to have you today. How are you doing?
Yeah, I am keeping busy.
I bet.
It's
I
going to be a busy
bet.
day today, but I'm excited to be here and talk with you, though.
Excellent. Well, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a registered nurse. I was PTA president for the last couple of years. Both my kids are in elementary school, so 10 and 8 years old. My youngest will turn 8 on Thursday. And as a registered nurse and as a PTA mom and being in Frederick County, you're trying to do all of the things, right? and
Hmm.
I was actually asked by someone to consider running for the Board of Education. And when I was looking at what was going on in our county and some of the other folks who were running, I realized I really need to kind of put my hat in there and make sure that we're, keeping our public education or public schools for everybody, right? For everybody in the
Yeah, of
public, and keeping it,
course.
and keeping a focus on the students and on education as well. So, and in my background, both my parents were handicapped, and education had such a huge effect, or the lack of education had a real huge effect on the possibilities they had for their life, right? And how they viewed their life and how big and open the world really was for them. So I really do understand how important it is for our kids and my kids and everyone's kids to be able to have a great education and one that allows them to be ready for the world after they leave the public school system. So that's me in a nutshell.
Excellent. All right. Well, why don't you tell me a bit about Frederick County?
So one of the things that's great and wonderful about Frederick County that makes it different from other counties in Maryland that I have experienced, right? I've grown up in Maryland my whole life. There's such a wonderful community of, say, nonprofits, for instance. So many people care. They care about each other, and they're always looking for ways to expand that and take whatever talent they have and apply it in some way to help other people. So we have this really thriving just nonprofit center, nonprofit groups here. We have a county, though, too, that it's a very large county. So while most of the county is bordered by other Maryland counties, at the top, we're actually bordered by Pennsylvania. So we have a lot of folks who come down here from Pennsylvania. We have a lot of people from West Virginia. So we do have contacts with other states in this area, and that's a lot of our workforce, right? Will come from folks who've graduated from Pennsylvania, West Virginia, that sort of thing. Or they will work here and live in Pennsylvania or West Virginia, because it's honestly something about Frederick County. We're the fastest growing county in the state, which has meant that a lot of folks can no longer afford to live here. So they're having to move out of state even while they're still working here in the school system, which has definitely been one of the issues that we have about retaining and attracting new teachers, educators, staff, and so forth for a public education system that's just growing by leaps and bounds. So, it's wonderful that we're doing all of that, but we also have a wonderful agricultural community that we're trying to preserve and maintain and really bring it and make sure that they have all the opportunities into the next century available to them. And we don't lose that agricultural community and history that Frederick County has, while also maintaining some of this growth and vibrancy that all of these other folks are bringing with them. And Frederick City is known for having so many programs, events, every day, all day, every weekend. So it's something that we love about our county.
All right. And when you've been out in the county talking to people, what's an issue that has been brought up a lot that the Board of Education can work on?
So one of the things that's been interesting to me that I'll say, hey, I'm Janie Monier, I'm running for the Board of Education here in Frederick County. And so many folks will be, the first thing they'll ask is, are you banning books? To which I'm like, no, I'm not banning books. That's not happening. That's at least not for me, right? That's not what's going to happen. But they asked that because not only is it in the national zeitgeist, but we do have folks who are running for Board of Ed on the other side who do want to ban books. And there's lots of reasons they want to ban books, whether it might be whitewashing history or just sort of homogenizing what family values mean, right? And what families look like, which is not reality for a lot of folks, right? So all of those reasons, people are concerned about who's going to make those decisions about what books are available for their kids, As a result of that, though, there has been a lot of discussion about our public libraries as well as our school libraries, and our school libraries are now going to be using a system where parents can, for themselves, make a decision. Hey, maybe I don't want my kid to read a couple of these books because I'm just not ready to have that discussion with them yet. Okay, but they can make that decision for their own kid and not impose it on every other family. right? So as a compromise goes, there you go. But not taking the books out of the libraries. Also, they worked really hard for those degrees. The librarians know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Let them work to the top of their degree. As a registered nurse, we talk about that a lot, like working to the top of the scope of your practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in so many fields where women tend to dominate the field, there's so much micromanaging that goes on. So many folks telling you how to do a job that you just went to school and got extra degrees and certifications to do, right? And it's like, what is going on here? Why do you not trust me to do this job? Didn't I just prove to you that I know how to do this job? And we need to be able to take some of those things off of the table for teachers and so forth and let them teach to the fullness of their degree, let them put books in the libraries to the fullness of their degree, understanding childhood development and so forth. So I'm a big fan of letting the experts be the experts, put it that way.
And do you feel there's something maybe that you and your opponent may differ on in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my opponent has also been on the board of a charter school, and part of that charter school in the last few years, while it's an excellent school and students do have a great experience while they're there, they have a Socratic method of teaching, and that's great. So it does work for a lot of students. I don't want to take that away from them. Unfortunately, they've been on probation 3 times. And each time they've been on probation, it's been because parents have struggled to get information from the board and have had to go to the Board of Education to get that information. And so they've been put on probation until things are fixed. And if we're going to talk about having parental transparency, so parents actually know what resources are available, or, hey, I don't understand why my kid can't, take advantage of this opportunity. What's going on here? If we're talking about transparency, parents need to be able to ask the question and get an honest answer back and not be stonewalled, right? So I know my opponent is part of that stonewalling, and I know that she's been a part of that, the issues that they've had and why they've been on probation, and and again, back to that homogenizing the world. Our world is so much bigger and more diverse and joyful than just a black and white version of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's, yeah, my opponent would disagree with that. That way. I think they believe that they have all the answers.
Now, as far as the not banning school books in school, I hear that, but is there something affirmatively that you'd like to see if you were to join the Board of Education? Something that you would like to work on other than that?
Right. There's a lot of things to work on. Some of what we're facing, many schools are facing across the country, and a lot of that is funding, right? So what are we funding? How are we funding it? And one of the big misunderstandings about how are we funded to begin with. So I use this analogy. Imagine if you get your paycheck every week or a couple weeks or however it is, but your paycheck is actually funded by at least 2 different groups of people. So it's not just your vocation, but somebody else, right, that is writing that check for you. And then before they can even write the check or give you the check, not just your taxes, but there's all these other people who have said, oh, wait a minute, I lay claim to this $100 for this project, or I lay claim to this percentage for this project. And that is what is happening in our school systems and school budgets. So at the end of the day, your paycheck is maybe 20 or 25% of what you've earned, right? That you can use as discretionary spending. So how are you paying for childcare, and how are you paying for your insurance? Yeah. How are you doing all the other things, right? And so that 25% is usually what everyone is fighting over. So if we're talking about vouchers or charter schools or anything else, that is the pot that they're taking money from. But that's also where we have to build new schools, where we have to find ways to compensate and train and attain new educators and support staff. Right now we're facing, ballooning classroom sizes because we don't have enough schools. We are the fastest growing county by at least 8 to 10% year after year since 2020. That means that, all these students who are coming into our school, we're not able to keep up with. And there's a lot of reasons about why that happened historically. Regardless, we have to deal with reality. And so part of that reality is going to be changing not just the formula that's used for funding that schools, how the state looks at us, but also where are we getting our funding from? How many, can we release some of these mandates? The blueprint for Maryland is a wonderful idea. It was decided on and passed before COVID. And so, as many people realize, of course, after COVID, inflation and so many other, outside pressures on our system has created a place where we can't even fund the things that Blueprint wants. And that includes having a fully funded special education, right? So that our special education kids who are in gen ed in classrooms that are now overcrowded, that now everybody's got these behavioral, mental, and all these other issues, much less different ways of learning. and you have one teacher, maybe an assistant if they can get one in there. And it's just not a viable system. It's not going to work forever. And even though we have amazing test scores and everything else, it can't last if we're not giving them support. And part of that support too is making sure that we get the bodies in there, but that we can pay them. We shouldn't have to have our support staff who are helping our children and helping our most vulnerable families and children also then have to go to the food bank to get food on their table. Right.
All right. Yeah. So we only have a moment left, but I have to ask this because it's my favorite question. It's my softball question. I would like to know, what is your favorite thing about Frederick County?
My favorite thing about, because that's a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
I actually just love how geographically diverse this county is, right? So Maryland, it's joked that it's like America in miniature, right? Mm-hmm. And so Frederick County really is a bit of that. I mean, we don't have the beach right here, but we have these wonderful mountains. We have a wonderful history. We have the Maryland School for the Deaf that has the Hessian Barracks, and I love history. So if you know anything about Revolutionary War and Legend of Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman, that was a Hessian soldier, right? And so we have the Hessian Barracks here. We have a ton of wonderful Civil War sites and historical sites. I worked as an archaeologist for the Park Service of Monocacy National Battlefield, and I got to learn so much about just the history between Frederick County and Saint-Domingue, right, which is now Haiti. And so when all of that revolution was happening and leading up to it, how many of those folks were coming up here? How many of those enslaved individuals were coming here, and what happened with them, and how did they fit into the low economy, the high economy, some of the other things that were going on. So I love that about Frederick County, just how much history and just the gorgeous environment that we all have here. That was more than one thing, but there you go.
That's all right. Yeah. All right, Janie Monier is running for Frederick County Board of Education in Frederick County, Maryland. Thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it, and best of luck in this election. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, guys. Take care.